Coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada, this is The Tracie Austin Show, the program that covers paranormal phenomenon, the supernatural, the highly strange, from the far corners of the world, with three-time Telly Award winner TV host, researcher, and author, Tracie Austin. And now, leading tonight's program, here's Tracie.
And a very good evening to all of our listeners and viewers tonight, wherever you happen to be listening or watching our show at this hour around this very paranormal planet of ours. As you know it is, we're broadcasting live from the KGRA Radio Network, Hudson Valley, New York, and Salt Lake, Utah. You're listening to The Tracie Austin Show, and I'm your host, Tracie Austin. And tonight on the show, we have yet another really fabulous guest for you. None other than Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, who's a fourth-generation psychic medium who communicates with spirits and travels to mystical locations in remote corners of the world to examine ancient mysteries and supernatural phenomena. And more about Mark in just a moment. But if you'd like to access the KGRA TV archives, as well as a variety of presentations, special access features, upcoming digital specials, and conferences, head over to kgradb.com and become a KGRA member. You can sign up for either a one-year subscription using the code TRACIE21, where you'll get a 30% discount, which is a huge discount, or you can choose a monthly subscription if you prefer, and that code is TRACIE, TRACIE. And once you do become a KGRA member, you'll have access to all of the KGRA audio and video archives. KGRA brings you the best in paranormal programming every single day of the week. So come join us over here at KGRA. Now I have to introduce my Queen's Beans. Have you tried it yet? I'm hoping to catch another EVP like I did a couple of shows ago, just a few weeks ago. I actually had I don't know who the gentleman was, but he left me an EVP when I asked, had he tried the Queen's Beans? He said no. So I hope by now he's tried it. And I hope you're trying it too. All you need to do is go to attitude.coffee and you look for the royal purple label that says the Queen's Beans. And because you're watching the show live tonight, if you just put my name in, Tracie, you'll get 10% discount. So do try it. Let me know what you think. But I've had some really great feedback on the Queen's Beans. And really, would it be anything else being a Brit? I don't think so. So the Queen's Beans is perfect for my coffee blend. Well, back to my guest tonight, Mark Anthony, who is a psychic explorer, also known as a psychic lawyer, and he's a fourth-generation psychic medium who communicates with spirits. He's an Oxford-educated attorney licensed to practice law in Florida, Washington, D.C., and before the United States Supreme Court. This psychic explorer travels to mystical locations in remote corners of the world to examine ancient mysteries and supernatural phenomena. And Mark actually appears on TV and radio nationwide, including CBS TV, The Doctors, and Gaia TV's Beyond Belief with George Noory. He's the co-host of the live stream show, The Psychic and the Doc, on the Transformation Network. He's a featured speaker at conferences, expos, and universities, which include Brown, Columbia, Harvard, and Yale. He's a columnist for Best Holistic Life magazine and the author of The Afterlife Frequency, published by New World Library. And his other bestsellers are Never Letting Go and Evidence of Eternity. And Mark has kindly agreed to do some live mini readings for us tonight. So he'll be taking your calls during the last 30 or 40 minutes of the show. And I'll give that number out a little later. But before we welcome Mark onto the show tonight, I'd like you to have a listen to what Mark says about his new book, The Afterlife Frequency.
I'm Mark Anthony, author of The Afterlife Frequency. But don't expect a dry treatise. This book educates, entertains, and reads like a juicy novel.
Joining us today is psychic lawyer Mark Anthony. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I don't think there's another person on the planet anywhere who shares this guy's resume.
He's been on Coast to Coast, the radio show with me for years. He's a psychic lawyer, but he's the real deal.
This book also provides hope in coping with grief, crime, murder, PTSD, and survivor's guilt. Part of being human involves contact with spirits, whether it's through a medium, during a dream, a deathbed vision, or a near-death experience. All these types of interdimensional communication occur when the energy of the human soul aligns with the afterlife frequency. The Afterlife Frequency teaches you my 4-step raft technique. Recognize spirit contact, accept it as real, feel it without fear, and trust the message.
And let's welcome my guest, Mark Anthony, to the show. Hello there, Mark.
Thank you, Tracie. I appreciate you having me on. It's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to have you, my friend. And thank you for joining us all the way from Florida. I think it's probably about what? Is it 10 p.m. there over there? right now?
Yeah, just a little bit after 10. And, we had the time change. So the government may, make sure that every 6 months, everybody in the country gets jet lag.
Right. Right, exactly. We don't like that. It needs to stop, right?
Yeah, it's pick a time, I don't see the need to be doing it anymore, but you know what? Nobody asked me and it's not my decision, so I just try to roll with the punches and here we are. But yeah, I think though that for a lot of people they like to change. So maybe there's a silver lining to this.
Maybe. I'm sure someone will tell us and let us know at some point. But great to have you here tonight. And I have to start off by asking you, really, Mark, being a psychic and being a lawyer, you couldn't really get any more opposite ends of the pole, could you? Really? You obviously were born with this ability because you're a 4th-generation psychic medium. So this ability came way before the lawyer part of your life. So how did you become known as the psychic lawyer?
Certainly. I mean, this is in my DNA. Both my parents had these abilities, and I've tracked it back into the 1890s on both sides of the family.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, my childhood, I didn't think it was unusual, but now that I look back on it, it was because, when you come home from school and the first thing your mother says when you walk in the door is, "I saw a spirit today." Now, most kids would freak out. I'd be like, "Well, cool, Mom. Do we have any peanut butter?" And I'd be making myself a peanut butter sandwich, and she'd be telling me. But the thing is, my dad was a U.S. Navy SEAL and a NASA engineer, and my mom was a commercial illustrator and artist. And so, for all intensive purposes, we were the family next door. But when I was around 3.5, I started perceiving spirits. And my parents could see them too. And, Mom was kind of excited. She thought it was, oh my gosh, he's got it. Dad was more like, oh God, he's got it, because he was concerned that because he knew from what had happened in his family, how difficult it could be. And so it's not unusual, Tracie, for a medium to be drawn to the spiritual. And I really wanted to go into the clergy. And I was seriously considering that. But then when I started, exploring that, I saw how many rules and regulations. And so I ended up going to law school, which,
Right.
yeah, I know. Talk about jumping out of the regulatory fire into the frying pan of law. But the thing is, yes, both professions are very different, but there's similarities too. Both of them revolve upon evidence, an attorney has to have evidence to substantiate his or
Sure.
her case. That's a
Sure.
given. And as a medium, I have to produce evidence that is transmitted to me from spirits to the recipient. And both jobs are also about helping people. As an attorney, I've helped people through some absolutely horrific times in their lives,
I'm
losing
sure.
loved ones, yeah, being
Mhm.
injured, being arrested. And as a medium, I facilitate contact between people here and their loved ones in spirit. So now that I'm working strictly in the spiritual realm, and I do still appear on TV and radio as a legal analyst, so I keep up my certification.
Mhm.
But what I found, Tracy, is that my background in evidence and in working with scientists, whether they're forensics, neurobiologists, neuroscientists, um, quantum physicists, all these type of disciplines you have to work with in the legal profession, I found all those skills transferable and very helpful to what I'm doing as a medium.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Are you the only child in your family, or do you have siblings as well, Mark?
I have an older brother and an older sister, and they both have intuitive abilities. Like one time, I mean, my brother in particular is really adept at picking up on future events, and actually, my sister
Hmm.
is too. She gets it more in the dream state. But like one time, I was talking to my brother on the phone, and he said, Mark, I got this really bad feeling something's going to happen to my son, like he's going to get cut or something. I go, that's terrible. And all of a sudden, about a minute later, I hear his son screaming in the background, Dad, I cut my hand. He was outside working on something and he was cutting something. It slipped and it slid his hand open. And my brother's like, gotta go. So I grew up in an environment with that, but I'm the medium. And, like my mother and like my father, so my brother and sister are not necessarily mediums. And a lot of people, Tracy, and I know that you know the difference because you work in the paranormal field,
Right.
but not every psychic is a medium, but every medium has psychic ability.
That's
And
right.
and the difference is what we're tuning into. Mediums, their brainwave frequency aligns with the energetic vibration, the frequency, if you will, of a person, place, or thing. Whereas a medium we align our brainwave frequency to a higher frequency, which is spirits, what I call the afterlife frequency. So to make it easy, if you want to know about your love life and career, talk to a psychic. If you want to communicate with dead people, see a medium.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Before we get into your book, The Afterlife Frequency, Mark, explain to us how you actually communicate with spirit. I mean, is it clairaudient? Is it clairvoyant? Obviously you do see, you do see dead people.
I see. Yes. People think it's like these TV shows and movies where you see a spirit. It's like a zombie walking around with a machete sticking out of their head, and it's not like that. That's that Hollywood sensationalized view of it. What happens is when I open up my brain to higher frequency, spirits will come forward, and I will see things, hear things, feel things, and know things. And so when I perceive a spirit visually, there's two types of clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is a French term meaning clear seeing. And there's objective clairvoyance, which means that I'll see the spirit standing in the room or wherever it is. And the reason it's called objective, Tracy, is because other people can see it as well. So when more than one person can see that, and I've worked with other mediums where we'll all start describing the same spirit, even like their age, their physical attributes, even how they're depicted in clothing. But for the vast majority of the time, the way I see a spirit is like a vivid memory in my mind's eye. So if I say to everybody right now, picture the Statue of Liberty, okay, you're seeing it right now. Okay, so that
Right.
is generally how I see spirits. And also for what I do as a medium, and the spirits know this too, it's more efficient that way because they're transmitting electromagnetic impulses into my brain, auditory, visual, data, physical sensations, and it's quicker and more efficient to do it that way than for them to, create this energy signature external to my brain for me to perceive.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Do spirit randomly communicate with you all hours of the day and night?
They can, but I define the parameters of the contact. In other words, you don't leave the doors and windows of your house open 24/7. So why would you want to
That's
do
true.
that to your psyche? And when you start working with spirits and you let them know I'm doing this or I'm not doing that, they will respect your privacy. And so when I initiate a reading, I let them know I'm doing this. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that I can be somewhere and a spirit or group of spirits wants to make contact. I mean, sometimes things like that happen, and if you'll indulge me just a moment, the reason I'm laughing is because when you asked that, it made me laugh. I was in England a few years ago, and it was St. Patrick's Day. And and St. Patrick's Day is a big deal in the United States, like it is
Yeah,
in,
it is.
you know,
Right.
and so, and I was over there studying supernatural phenomenon. So I asked some of my English friends, my colleagues, what do you guys do on St. Patrick's Day? And they're like, nothing. And there's like, okay, I'm not getting into the whole England, Ireland thing. So I said, well, I'm going to take the day off. And so I'm in London. It's in March. It's foggy. It's miserable. It's raining. And so I went to the Tower of London. I couldn't think of a better place to be with the weather like that. And I love it because I'm a history buff and I'm walking around and I'm looking at suits of armor and all this incredible history. And so then I'm walking in the great courtyard of the Tower of London. And I keep thinking Anne Boleyn, Anne Boleyn, Anne Boleyn. I'm just flooding my mind. And I'm saying, okay, I remember, Henry VIII had 6 wives. And the
Mhm.
way to remember what happened to them, there's a little mnemonic device: divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived.
In that order.
In that order. And so, all right, divorced was the first one, Catherine of Aragon. Beheaded, Anne Boleyn. So I go, she was beheaded. So I'm walking around and I go, I wonder if she was executed here at the Tower of London. So I sit down on this bench and it's getting stronger, and all of a sudden I feel compelled to turn to my left. And so I look over to my left and I see this, like maybe 30 feet away from me, this incredible sculpture. It's very, very modern, this big round a circular glass sculpture with what looked like a glass pillow in the middle of it. And I see the glass pillow, and I remember joking, going, I guess they were fresh out of glass slippers, 'cause so I get up and I feel compelled to walk to it. And I walk right up to the rim of this giant circle, this glass circle, and I look down, and the name Anne Boleyn is etched in the glass right there. And then
Wow.
I read it, and it was a monument to the people who had been unjustly put to death at the Tower of London. And it
Mhm.
said this was the site where Queen Anne Boleyn was beheaded by order of Henry VIII. So I'm standing here in freezing weather, foggy, drizzly Tower of London, and I'm thinking, for a medium, this is the best St. Patrick's Day ever. And the only thing missing was like a soundtrack going woo woo woo.
I thought you were gonna say, Mark, I looked to my left and I saw Anne Boleyn sitting there.
I couldn't help but to look around, but then, there she was. And so then I talked to one of the guards, the beefeaters there, and they said, oh yeah, Queen Anne Boleyn is buried in this one chapel, and they won't let you take pictures there. But I did go to her. Actually, she's entombed in this chapel there, and I went to her actual grave site. And so it was a very, very fascinating day, and that opens up all sorts of questions. Is Anne
Mhm.
Boleyn's spirit wafting around the Tower of London, or was this a residual energy echo, or was it she comes back and visits that particular place now and again? And so, for paranormal investigators, and I know you're like the queen of paranormal investigators, that is like, that is just really that's really cool.
Oh, it is, and I'm sure that the Tower of London has so many spirits wandering around
Oh yeah.
there. London is a very haunted place. I saw a ghost there myself in London, headless, many, many years ago. I've told it many times on the show, so I won't tell it tonight because I don't want to take time away from you, Mark. So some other time I'll tell you
I,
about my
I
ghost
I
story.
will hold you to that. But yeah, London's haunted, but also really spiritual.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah.
such an epicenter, and one of the fascinating things when I was in England and I was conducting readings for people, their relatives who had lived through the Blitz, the air blitz on London, would come through, and to me it was an honor to connect with spirits who had been through that. And so I've always found the British Isles in general very, very, um, very potent spiritually.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we've got a lot of history over there in
Oh yeah.
England and Europe. We absolutely do. Um, Before I move on here, Mark, I have a question from Steve Humphrey. Question for Mark Anthony. Um, are you able to tone out or shut off your ability to get personal time? I think you did say, yeah, you
Yeah.
have to draw the line.
Yeah, Steve, that's a good question. I turn it on and turn it off. And the thing is, I'll run into inexperienced mediums that are like, oh, they come to me all the time. It's like, do you want that going on all the time? So you have to learn to, I'm doing this or I'm not doing this. And the spirits will respect that. They will respect that, so that's all part of working with them.
Hmm. Do you get visitations from your loved ones, Mark?
I do.
You do.
I do. And I write about this quite a bit in the Afterlife Frequency. And, but there's a story in there there's a story that I have that is not in the Afterlife Frequency, and I purposely did not put it in there. If you don't, if you'll indulge me for a minute,
Hmm.
um, my best friend was a guy named Billy, and we met when I was 11. We were 11 years old. Our birthdays were like a week apart. We went to junior high school, college together. And after college, I went to law school and he went to Asia, and he was a linguistics genius. He learned how to speak Japanese, Thai, Indonesian, and Cantonese. And so he was teaching Japanese executives conversational English. And I remember it's one of the best periods of my life. I took about 2 months off and I went to Asia and visited Billy, and we traveled through Japan and then Southeast Asia. In fact, the Afterlife Frequency, Chapter 1, opens with one of our adventures, if you will, in Bangkok, Thailand. And let me tell you, if things didn't go the way they went, I probably wouldn't be alive today. And throughout the course of our life, Tracie, Billy and I always talked about the afterlife. We were both raised in the Catholic faith, but he was an atheist. And he said, I don't believe in any of that. He goes, but the psychic thing that you do, he goes, that gets me thinking, because every time we'd be at a Buddhist temple, I'm there talking to the monks, and because I just love doing that. I mean, that's
Hmm.
part of what I do.
Sure.
And so we had this lifelong debate about the existence of the afterlife. Obviously, I advocated the other side, meaning I believe in it. And he said there's no technology, there's no science that can prove it, there's no device that can detect spirits. And long story longer, I actually performed his wedding ceremony. He married this
Oh,
beautiful woman from Japan. Yeah, I was a notary public at the time. And Tracie, that was one of the best days of my life, because there I am acting as the officiate for my best friend and my new best
oh,
friend, his wife. Our parents were alive; they were there. All of our friends from high school and college, and it was like it was just perfect. It was one of those,
fabulous.
yeah, it's one of those perfect days in life.
A
And
Kodak moment.
oh, it really was. It
Yes,
really
Kodak moment.
absolutely was. And at first things looked like they were going well, but Billy always grappled with depression and alcoholism, unfortunately. And a couple of years after that, he succumbed to suicide. And
Oh,
so I was absolutely
oh my
devastated.
gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and he was my brother. He was like my brother. And so about a year after that, I was a headliner speaker at a paranormal convention at the in Estes Park, Colorado, at the Stanley Hotel. And I'm sure you're aware of that. There's a lot of
Mhm.
paranormal activity, and I had just given my presentation, and so I was down in the convention room signing books, and there was a lot of display tables all over the place. And my manager, Rocky, she said, "Mark, you look like you're okay." So she's walking around. She wanted to check out all the paranormal investigation stuff. So she's walking by this one table. It was manned by this guy named Chris. He's very well known in investigations, and he was displaying the spirit box scanner. And so she walks by it, and she hears, "Get Mark." And so Rocky stops, and she's looking at this thing,
Oh my
and
gosh.
Chris said, "Did that just talk to you?" And all of a sudden, "Get Mark" comes out of it again. So I'm hearing, "Mark, Mark, get over here." And I look up and I see Chris and Rocky. They're like, "Now." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And these people are like converging on this table. So I run over there. And as soon as I get there, I hear, "Dude." And Tracie, I stop short in my tracks. And I mean, I'm stunned. And then I hear, "Love you, bro."
Oh my gosh.
And I look at Rocky, go, "That wasn't," she goes, "Mark, that was Billy's voice," because she knew him too. It was his voice. And Chris is like, "Oh my God." He goes, "Not only did it call you by name, but both of you positively identified this person." And see, we're from East Coast Central Florida. Everything's surfing, dude, bro. That's what it was
Right,
called
that's
me.
right. Yep,
I
yep.
think the very last thing he ever did say to me, he hugged me and he said, "Love you, bro," was the last thing he ever said to me. And
Amazing.
so, at first I'm stunned, and I'm a medium and I'm used to, delivering messages that get people's attention. But then, Tracie, I started thinking about this for a long time. And then I realized this wasn't just Billy taking an opportunity to reach out to me. He used technology. He used a piece of equipment. He
To do
used
it.
science. And
Mhm.
that got my wheels turning. And the reason I left that story out of the Afterlife Frequency, because I knew that I would be talking about, why did you write this book? And that's why. That's why the
Right.
subtitle is "The Scientific Proof of Spiritual Contact and How That Awareness Will Change Your Life." And and that to me was such an aha moment and so profound. And I, as a medium, I facilitate communication with spirits and with their loved ones here. But for a spirit to turn the tables on me and surprise me like that, and I'm thinking, God, that is so Billy, because that's how he was.
Right. And I was going to say to you, I was going to ask you, how do they communicate with you when you do have visitations? But you've just explained it. They're using devices. So,
They
do,
use devices. Well, I mean, oftentimes, like I'll be doing something, and all of a sudden I'll feel like either my mother or my father, or occasionally a close friend or some other relative, and they'll come through to me. And then there's times when I'll meditate. So they will come through to me. But the hard part for a medium is I have to have a healthy skepticism as well. Is this my loved one coming through, or is this a projection of my grief? And
right.
so that's why when people do want to have communication, going through a legitimate medium is good, because as the medium, I have to maintain my objectivity and not get personally involved and just, explain what is being transmitted to me. But, a lot of times, like recently, it was a few days ago, it was the fourth anniversary of the passing of my father.
Oh, I'm sorry
Okay.
to hear that.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's one of those difficult dates. And I did feel him and my mother around me. So we all are going to come up against those times, those dates that trigger that desire to have the contact. So when something like that happens, or something that comes through a medium to somebody, and it can be objectively verified, then you know that the contact is genuine.
Absolutely. And, I'm coming up on the 4th anniversary of my father this month
Oh, I'm
as
sorry.
well. Thank you. And, when I had a reading with Mark just a few weeks ago, and my father came through, which was fantastic. He brought his brother, and other people came through, and it was just terrific. But and I've talked about this on the show before, Mark, about my dad and the visitations that I have from him. I mean, for the past 4 years since he's crossed over, he visits, which is truly unbelievable, and he switches the light on in the
Yeah,
guest bedroom. It's always been switched on. Hummingbirds, dragonfly visitations, and manifesting feathers and pennies and dimes. Now, I know this happens to a lot of people. A
sure.
lot of people. How are they able to do this, Mark? They're no longer in the physical world. I know they're not far away, but the two worlds are completely different.
They are and they are not. And everything that you just described, this is once again things I go into in great depth in the Afterlife Frequency. But how are they able? You see pennies, you see feathers, you see objects, hummingbirds, dragonflies. Well, let's start with the animals. Okay, dragonflies, hummingbirds. Spirits don't turn into those, because I hear people saying, "Oh, I saw this
Right.
butterfly. I knew it was my son." No, your son did not turn into a butterfly.
That's
But
right. Mhm.
what the spirit can do is they can direct something, and I don't want to sound like arrogant human being, but something of lower intelligence, like a butterfly, like a hummingbird, like a dragonfly, and they can direct it in our to our location, and then they can also draw our attention to it. And this is what I term a frequency beacon. It's also
Mm.
like if you're driving down the road and suddenly you turn on the radio and there's that song that touches your heartstrings. Or suddenly you smell, boy, that's my mother's perfume, but there's no perfume bottle anywhere near you.
Right.
And this is all dealing with frequency and vibration. So think of everybody that you love being connected to you, both in this world and the other side, by a three-dimensional spider web. Okay, how does a spider web work? Vibration. Okay, something hits it, sends a vibration along it. Well, spirits, it's like a parent who has a child and the child's in danger and the parent just knows. Didn't get a
Mhm.
cell phone call, didn't get a text or anything like that. You just know. What, you think that's a coincidence? Of course not.
Yeah.
That is because we're energetically linked. And I explain how this works in the book on the basis of quantum entanglement. And I'm not going to go into that now because we'll be talking about that for the rest of the show. Okay. But there is an explanation why this happens. And so when you're dealing with spirits, because they're pure energy and they don't have the lower, slower vibration of a body, it's even more intense. So that's how they can emit a frequency to us to prompt us to turn on the radio. They can trigger a memory in our brain, and the long-term memory is right next to the olfactory sense, the part of your
Oh.
brain that controls all. Yeah, that's why smells will bring you right back. Oh my God, I was 5 years old. Okay, you'll smell something and it'll bring
Oh,
you right back to a memory
didn't know
because
that.
yeah, long-term memory and the olfactory control center right next to each other in the brain, and so they can do that. And conversely, we can send frequency beacons to spirits. Many times, if you're grieving very heavily or thinking about them very heavily, all of a sudden you feel they're around, or you pick up on a sensation. And this
Mhm.
also applies to people in this world. I was really thinking about Mary. I was thinking about Mary really hard, and all of a sudden the phone rings and it's Mary,
That's right.
because she's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I need to call Mark. And so that is what's known as frequency beacons. So now the question is, what about physical objects? Do they move them? I would like to say for the most part, no, but I've also seen things like this happen. So I don't rule that out. Because I remember one time right after my mother died, I have this file, and mom was an artist. And I remember she drew this little picture of flowers, and it was just really sweet. And I have this folder that I put like personal mementos in. So I'm in my office and I open up a filing cabinet on the other side of the room, and there's that picture. And it's supposed to be in the filing cabinet on the other side of the room. And I go over there and all my other personal mementos, and I didn't move it there, and nobody else goes through these things. So,
Right.
and it just happened to be my father came in the room and he sat down and he goes, God, I miss your mom so much. And it happened right then and there. So when you start, cascading these type of events on top of each other, that's why I don't believe in coincidences. I
No.
believe in synchronicity.
Synchronicity. Absolutely. Me too. And a couple of years ago, I spoke with John Edward,
Yeah.
the spiritual medium.
Yeah, I know John. Yeah.
Yeah. And he said about pennies and dimes. If ever you get a penny from heaven, which is what they're called, always check the year on the penny because it is of significance to you. And I can honestly tell you, more time I've got a penny or a dime, that date is absolutely significant.
Yes. Yeah,
So
I agree with him on that. Yeah.
yeah, so it always baffles me. I mean, my dad left me a dime at the mailbox the other day. So it's like, really? And it's right there, lying right in front of my mailbox.
Yeah.
So I knew who it was from. But I just want to tell our audience, and our viewers that I had a reading with Mark a few weeks ago. Actually wowed by his ability, the things that came through. Not only had my dad come through, I had my dad's brother come through. And also, there was a message for Bill, the producer, as well, which was spot on and 100%. So I had to tell Bill. And again, it was 100%. Let me ask you this, Mark, and I've asked other psychic mediums that have come onto the show. Where is this other side that we go to? This other place or space that
Where
spirit?
is the afterlife frequency?
Where is
That's
it?
Well, here's the way. See, people think that the other side, heaven, nirvana, whatever you want to call it, is like orbiting, Alpha Centauri, several light years away. What we have to realize is that all of this is explainable on the basis of science through quantum physics. And, luckily, we have the benefit for the past century of not just particle mechanics, quantum physics, but now string theory. And string theory proposes that there's not just one universe, but there's several universes. And within these universes, there's dimensions. But let's look at it this way. Our dimension, our world, think of it as AM radio. We use energy, frequency, vibration. We know from the realm of quantum physics that everything is molecules, which are composed of atoms, which are composed of smaller particles known as electrons, protons, and neutrons. And those, in turn, are made of the smallest particle, which is quantum, singular, quanta, plural, and quantum is electromagnetic energy. Now, for the physicists who are listening, technically an electron is a quantum particle, okay, because an electron is 1/1800th the size of a proton. So I want to say that because I know somebody will write something to me on social media or whatever. But so now everything at the most basic level is electromagnetic energy. And we know that everything vibrates. So, for example, this pen, even though it's an inanimate object, is vibrating on the subatomic level. And it's made of the same electromagnetic energy on the subatomic level, Tracie, that you are, that I am, that the air we're breathing, that the light we're seeing is. All of those, the radio waves that the show is being transmitted on, the mantle of the planet that we're sitting on, the nuclear reactions in the sun. And so when you start looking at this, that everything on the subatomic level is electromagnetic energy, which vibrates. So here we are in the material world, and we're AM radio. We have a lower, slower frequency, but it's still energy. And the other side, the afterlife frequency, is FM radio. So you have two different systems, and then eventually, in certain circumstances, the vibration of the AM can be increased, the frequency of the FM can be decreased, and you get a frequency match, and there's spirit contact. And so
Right.
the other side is here. It's simply a parallel dimension. And this isn't some airy fairy granola theory. This is what quantum physicists, string theorists are proposing. Stephen Hawking, before he died, one of the last papers that he co-authored was about this very topic. You get people like, Michio Kaku and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and we could go on and on and on. So the other side is here. And that is why when we engage in spirit communication, wham, they're here in a flash. That's
It's
why
fast.
it's
Oh, yeah.
really fast.
Fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have a question here from Bim Jim. In which spectrum are these frequencies you keep talking about? But you've just answered that.
Right. They're
for
all
us.
in the electromagnetic spectrum. And I go into this in greater detail in the Afterlife Frequency. I'm given little snippets here. I mean, it took me 6 years to write the book and even longer
Wow.
to compile all the stories. So I'm giving a quick overview. And I always appreciate when there are questions like that. And I had my book peer reviewed, and it's been endorsed by some of the top near-death experience, afterlife researchers, and survival of consciousness scientists
Yes, it
in the
has.
world. So it's not just like, I don't, this is my background as a lawyer. If I'm going to make a statement, then I had better have evidence and facts to back it up.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. What do you say to people, Mark, who just don't believe that life continues on beyond the physical?
Well, that's what Billy said.
There we go. And surprise.
Surprise. Yeah. To quote, I just mentioned his name, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the beauty of science is that you don't have to believe it for it to be true. So for the people who don't believe that life doesn't go on, well, we know that we have an electrical field. We know that our brain has an electromagnetic field. And we know from the study of physics, the laws of thermodynamics, that energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transferred from one form to another. And so, people that I love when people say, well, I don't believe that. And I say, really? Well, why not? Well, because it's not possible. And to my response is, number one, I forgive you. And number two is, by all means, please explain to me your vast knowledge of quantum physics, string theory, energy transfer, and frequency alignment, and spirituality. Okay, please explain all that to me first. Because a lot of people can say, I don't believe it. It's like, well, this is a free country from, and you have a right not to believe something. But all too often, people who say I'm a skeptic, they're not a skeptic, they're a cynic. A skeptic may not believe something, but is open-minded if the evidence is presented, whereas a cynic is simply closed-minded.
That's right. Don't show me the proof, my mind's made up.
Exactly. Don't
That's what
confuse
they
me with
say.
the facts.
That's right. Yep, that's right. That's absolutely true. What we saw there at the beginning of the show in your video, Mark, you mentioned a term called RAFT, which is a 4-step RAFT technique. Recognize, accept, feel, and trust. Tell us more about those, Mark.
I'm smiling because you brought this up a little bit ago in a roundabout way. My book is not about turning people into mediums. I depart with a lot of my colleagues that I'll turn you into a medium. Look, you're either a medium or you're not. It's like you're either a world-class athlete or you're not. You're either a mathematician or you're not. Now, that doesn't mean that we, can't swim, but I'm never going to win gold medals in the Olympics for swimming. I can bang around on a piano, but I'm never going to be a Rachmaninoff or an Elton John or anything like that. We're all good at different things, and we all have the same basic physiology. So we're all capable of having psychic and mediumistic experiences because of, the glands in our body that enable us to do this. But I was trying to figure out, Tracie, how do I explain this to people who aren't mediums? So I'm working here in my office, and I just kept hitting a brick wall. I hit that writer's block. And you're an author, you understand writer's block, and there's,
yes.
Yeah, it's horrible. And it always happens on the day that you've scheduled time to work on your book.
Yep.
It always seems like when I have no time, I'm getting ideas. So I thought I'm going to go for a walk on the beach. I live near the ocean. So I'm headed down my driveway, and all of a sudden I get these electrical tingles, cold chills and tingles through my body. So I go, okay, something's going on. And this is Eric's, I guess it was Eric's question earlier. Yeah, they do make contact when I'm not expecting it. And I do an about face and head in the opposite direction to this bike path, which is near my house. So Tracie, I'm walking down this bike path. It's around 11 o'clock in the morning, and I see these two objects shining, glowing in the light, in the sunlight. So I walk over to them, and it's a nickel and a penny. And I go to pick it up, and I hear my mother's voice. Okay, both my parents passed, and my mom, she was of Italian descent. Okay, and I heard her say, if it's not heads up, it's bad luck. And I'm laughing because the Italian side of the family has a superstition for all occasions. If a penny's down, heads down, it's bad luck. Don't walk under a ladder. Watch out for the black cat. Oh, God,
Right.
God forbid you drop a mirror in the brain,
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, And then I hear my dad's voice. It's money. Grab it. So I'm laughing. And so here I am. I'm holding this nickel and this penny. I go, 6 cents. And I go, wait a second. 6 cents. And then I recognized this was a sign from my parents, and they led me here. And I accepted that. And then my mind's eye, I saw my dad standing in the ocean. Okay. He was a Navy SEAL, scuba diver, swimming instructor, taught all these kids how to swim. And he was holding this blue canvas raft that he had. And I go, raft? That's it. That's it. That's what they're teaching me. And it came to me, recognize signs from spirits, accept the contact is real, feel it without fear, feel it without overthinking it, and then trust the message. Ran back to my computer. The words just flew out of me.
Fantastic.
It was like, Tracie, it was just amazing. And so the raft technique, once I got it all down, and then of course you go back and fix the grammar, you clean it up. And I saw this is it, because it's a 4-step process. And it's on the 3rd step, the feel, don't overthink. This is where people go wrong, is you'll recognize a sign. Okay, they're around me. Okay, I'm accepting this. And then, oh, well, this must be my imagination. Oh, this could just be a coincidence. Oh, and that's when you start overthinking it. And boom, then you'll lose it. And then I started to realize that traditionally the different forms of what I call interdimensional communication, between our material world and the other side, the afterlife frequency, they've all been put into separate categories. Mediumship is studied here, a direct visitation's here, near-death experience is here, deathbed vision is here, an out-of-body experience. It's like a salad bar, okay,
Right.
that they're all in different and it's not like that. That all the different forms of spirit communication have common denominators, which is energy transfer and frequency alignment. And the raft technique can be applied to interpreting any of those. Okay, so if you have an experience like mine, like, you found a dime near your mailbox, or you find a feather, and see, you naturally do this, Tracie. You recognize, accept it, feel, and trust. Boom, boom, boom. So once you start working with it, you'll be like Tracie. Okay, it'll just become second nature. But what if you have a near-death experience and you want to make sense out of it? The raft will apply to that too, because a lot of people are going to say, it's a grief, and it's an effect of a dying brain. It was a hallucination. It was this. It was that. And this is a huge area now. in near-death experience and afterlife research are deathbed visions. When
Yes.
somebody is actively dying
Mhm.
and they very well may be talking to people who are in spirit, that people that they know who passed are there. And what's even more fascinating is that people in close proximity to them, close family, friends, hospice workers, other healthcare workers, they will see these spirits too. And this is all
Right.
frequency overlap. And so the raft technique can be used to help make sense of and get the most out of all the different forms of spirit contact.
Well, I have to say, Mark, I've applied all of those 4 techniques through what I've experienced personally and believe 100% that life continues because I've experienced it for the whole 4 years. But I have to say that the whole thing with the light switching on from my dad has decreased somewhat since I moved state. So why is that when somebody moves house, Mark, that the communication can become less? Why do they do that?
Or it becomes different.
Or different because
Or
it has.
different. He did that. You got that message. You RAFT'd it. Okay.
Right.
And the thing is, what you'll find with spirit communication is it's not a stagnant thing. Okay. So your dad's been, flipping the lights on and off, but now you're ready for something more sophisticated and maybe a little less flashy. You see what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Mhm.
Maybe now you'll hear his voice, or maybe now you'll have a visitation in the dream state, which has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and is coherent, and it feels real. It's because it is. So don't look at it as it's decreasing, it's just changing. Also, it may be as well that you have reached the new normal now. And the new normal isn't that, oh, my life is wonderful because, we're always going to grieve our loved ones. You don't get over grief. You come
No.
to live with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've established the new normal. And so he may not find that it is as necessary for you for him to make contact, or he is contacting you in other ways. Because if he just
That's
does
right.
the same thing, flipping the lights on and off, that's nice, but what are you getting out of it? But now, okay, I'm finding a coin and I look at the date and it's like, okay, that's really significant. Or I had this visitation last night where my father talked to me with absolute clarity. Okay. And so just look at how the contact is going to change over time.
Mhm. Well, I ask for him to switch the light on again all the time. I said, "Dad, I love that kind of communication with you. It makes me feel like you are right here in the room." But I've yet to still experience that from a few months ago.
Well, in the Afterlife Frequency, there's a chapter called "The Unfolding and Avoiding the No 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 Syndrome." And the No 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 Syndrome, it's easy when I'm doing a reading for someone and I say, "Does that make sense?" No, 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 no. Okay, when they start shooting everything down, you're creating a barrier. But
Right.
that no, no, no barrier energy has different manifestations. I want you to turn these lights on. I want, I want, I want. You're putting an angst into the energetic field, which is the same as the no, no, no type of energy.
Right.
Or people that are in such a profound state of grief after the death of a loved one. They never come to me. Why don't they come to me? That pain and angst is more no, no, no energy. And look, it's very normal. I mean, it's cool. Your dad's flat turning the lights on. Why wouldn't you want that? Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, someone who's grieving horribly, of course you want that contact. I mean, I'm not begrudging anybody, but I've been analyzing the energy long enough to understand why there's no contact there. And here's what you do. Change the focus. Instead of saying, "Dad, I want you to do this," say, "Dad, I invite you to do this.
Ah,
I
okay.
invite you into my dreams. I miss you so much. I welcome a message." Because then it's going from no, no, no and angst to an invitation. Do you see?
Yes, and it's more polite.
It's more polite, and because it's easy to block and create a filter to the very subtle signs that spirits send us. Look, we all want that Steven Spielberg spotlight, with the spirit. I know what was that movie with Whoopi Goldberg and Patrick Ghost? Okay,
Ghost.
doesn't everybody want the last scene in Ghost where Patrick Swayze's glowing, going, "Bye, Demi Moore, bye, Whoopi Goldberg, I'm going to heaven now," and they see him clearly? Everybody wants that, but that's not always how this occurs. And so that's why I teach the raft technique, is to make people more spiritually, situationally aware of the presence of spirits, so they can then get as much as possible out of the contact.
Well, thank you for explaining that, Mark. That makes me a little bit more comfortable with don't ask the way I ask, change it. Change the way, invite. So I hope everyone else is learning from all of this tonight, because I sure am. We've got about a minute here before the break, Mark, but I just want to say real quick before we do have the break, alternatively, why is it sometimes that spirit does not want to communicate with the person?
Spirits are always capable of communicating. It's whether or not we're ready. And a lot of times people feel that just because they want the contact that they're ready. That's why, like on my website and in my books, I tell people wait 4 to 6 months after the passing. The spirit can communicate right away, but if somebody is hysterical, crying, so devastated in grief, are they going to get anything out of the contact? Whereas if you wait a couple months, emotions begin to stabilize and you will be in a more receptive mode. Trust me, if they need to get hold of you, and they know when they do, they're gonna get through.
Absolutely. Trust, believe, and receive.
Trust.
Absolutely.
Trust, believe, and receive.
There you go. We are going to go to a quick break here, Mark. Stay with us. We're going to talk about your book when we come back. And we will be right back after this very short break.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
What really happens when we die? What lies on the other side? And is death the end? My new book, I Survived Beyond and Back, sheds light on these questions and takes you on a journey of first-hand near-death experiences as reported by those who experience them. I Survived Beyond and Back, available now on Amazon and bookstores nationwide.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. the on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, the KGRADB.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
And welcome back to the show. If you're just joining us tonight, you have missed the first hour of my guest, Mark Anthony. Hopefully you haven't missed the first hour and you've been with us the whole time. Fascinating discussion with the psychic lawyer, Mark Anthony, whose new book, The Afterlife Frequency, is what we're going to be discussing now that we've just come back from break. So let me ask you, Mark. Well, first of all, let's talk about your newly released book, The Afterlife Frequency, which I have to congratulate you on because it's been nominated for a Pulitzer Prize by Columbia University, hasn't it?
Yeah, I received notification that it's up for a Pulitzer, and that was one of those, wow, my heart skipped a beat quite a bit. So somebody likes my writing, and whoever it is, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. What an honor. And I was going to say, you've got to feel so over the moon about that. Not you do feel over the moon about it.
Yeah, and it's very humbling, very, very humbling. And, it was released October 12th. And in that time, I found out that it was submitted for Pulitzer. It's already in a second printing. Shirley MacLaine, the legendary film icon, recommended it in her newsletter. And I mean, it's just been very, very overwhelming at the massive response. It has maintained number one bestseller status through Amazon.
Fantastic.
And yeah, so all I can say to everybody is thank you so very much for your support and your love.
Absolutely. And also the foreword, as you can see on the cover there, is written by Dr. Gary Schwartz, who's very well known in the field of psychic phenomena. And you have a concept in the book, Mark, that's called the electromagnetic soul. Now, explain to us what the electromagnetic soul is exactly.
It's a 21st century term to describe what we really are, which is pure consciousness that is eternal electromagnetic energy. And in my study of theology, every major belief system, whether it goes back to the Hindus 5,000 years ago through Buddha, through Zoroaster, through Moses, through Jesus, through Muhammad, through Native American spirituality, through Shintoism, Taoism, Jainism. I mean, you go through all the major religions. The belief is that who and what we are, the soul, the spirit, pre-exists the body, comes into the body, moves on after the body. In the realm of science, psychology, and actually quantum physics as well, it's referred to as consciousness. Neuroscience is the study of the human brain. And neuroscience holds that the brain operates on chemical reactions and electrical impulses, but is completely unable to explain consciousness. And that's because the brain does not create consciousness any more than the hard drive on your computer created Windows 10 or the upcoming Windows 11, which
Right.
which I don't know if I'm happy. No, but I'm sorry, Microsoft. Just kidding. But the thing is, we got to look at our brain as a computer hard drive, and when the hard drive crashes, the information is not lost; it is uploaded, and so it's the same thing when we die. Our electromagnetic soul. Now, why do I call it the electromagnetic soul? Because we know that the brain and the body has an electrical field. The strongest electrical field in the body is the heart, which makes sense. It's a pump and it's
Sure.
running 24/7 and it's got a heart. But the most sophisticated electrical activity in the brain, in the body, is in the brain. And that is where the soul is. And that's what the soul is electromagnetic energy, a quantum field. And we know that the pineal gland, which is about 4 inches behind the center of the forehead, the proverbial third eye chakra, the pineal gland regulates our brain wave frequency. It regulates our ability to perceive light. It regulates our circadian rhythms. And a British German study and later a French Israeli study discovered there are calcite and magnetite crystals within the pineal gland. Now, the pineal gland's small. It's about between the size of a grain of rice and maybe a lima bean. It's not a real big gland, but it's been studied for decades, and it is the most misunderstood and mysterious gland in our body. But calcite and magnetite, okay, and both of those crystals have what's known as piezoelectric properties, that when subjected to stress, they produce an electromagnetic charge. Now, what was the first radio? A chunk of quartz crystal with copper wire.
That's right.
Running low levels of electricity. So we have a radio station in our head. And so the electromagnetic soul is all patched into this. And that's why I came up with, once you study and once you understand the concept of the electromagnetic soul, it's the building block for understanding all the various forms of interdimensional communication, mediumship, visitations, near-death experience, shared death experience, deathbed visions, and so on. And so that is the concept. And I remember Gary Schwartz calling me up. He goes, I read your book. I love it. I love the electromagnetic soul. I'm using it. I'm calling it the EMS. And it was like, talk about an honor. Thank you,
Yes.
Dr. Schwartz.
That's fantastic. Well, I had never thought or heard that the soul was up here in our head. Got to talk about near-death experiences here for a moment with you, though, Mark, because Gary Busey, who had a near-death experience, had a tragic motorcycle accident a number of years ago, and died for a certain amount of time. And he said when he saw his soul on the other side with angels that were huge balls of light, they weren't angels with wings or anything like that.
Right.
They were huge balls of light. But he says that the soul is in the spine and it's about 1.5 inches thick. Is he accurate to some degree with that, or is it wrong? Is it not correct?
Well, the thing is, our whole neural net operates on electrical impulses. And so, my study, my belief, and my observations is that the soul is in the brain. But then again, the brain sends electrical impulses down the spinal column.
It does.
So,
yeah.
yeah. So, it may not sit in one particular place. And the thing about the brain is a formatting instrument. We also have to look at the brain being an extremely sophisticated instrument. And so the idea that something as sophisticated as the electromagnetic soul hanging out, in your neck or in your pinky doesn't really make as much sense. It's like, once again, the computer hard drive analogy. And this analogy comes from Professor Hans-Peter Dohr of the German Biophysics Institute and the Max Planck Institute in Germany. And he's not the only one that says that. There's other physicists throughout the world. And one of the questions earlier was, well, what specific range of frequencies? Because
Right.
a lot of people are like, well, okay, if this is true, why don't we just hook them up to an EEG, electroencephalogram, or a QEEG, a quantitative electroencephalogram? Excellent questions. And QEEG and EEGs are very good at diagnosing medical issues, but they're not specifically designed to measure the higher harmonic resonance that would be the EMS. That's what Gary Schwartz is working on, okay? And he's working on technology known as the soul phone. And I've been in his laboratory and I've seen it because I'm on the board of directors of the Soul Phone Project. And Tracie, I know as a good journalist, you're like, well, tell us about it, Mark, but I am not at liberty to because I had to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. And the thing is, the announcement is going to be coming, and it wouldn't be proper for me. And first off, being a lawyer, I'm not going to violate that.
Listen, that sucks, but we understand.
It sucks. But let me tell you, I would love to tell you what I saw because I was like, oh my God. But it was really cool too because he was testing me while I was there. I've been tested in the UK, University of Arizona, and LA, and the skeptics and all that. Now I've had so many electrodes and things hooked up to my head and all that. But the thing is, we are currently working on the technology. I mean, Thomas Edison was developing what has been euphemistically described as the spirit phone. And he even explained that before he died. And now Gary Schwartz is working on the soul phone. And the advantage that Gary Schwartz has is 21st century technology. And then in the interim, we've had these devices, like I described, with the communication with my friend Billy. And with all the paranormal investigation equipment, and Tracie, I know that you can verify this. What do they scan? They scan different forms of the electromagnetic spectrum, infrared scanners, ultraviolet scanners. They scan the EVP scanners; those are radio waves. They then there's the EMF devices looking for spikes in energy. There's the K2 meters. They're all scanning different aspects of the electromagnetic spectrum. So once again, these are all part of the factors that went into me developing this particular term.
Right. And I believe that Edgar Casey actually referred to it, not the soul phone that we're talking about, the consciousness and the mind, as a universal mind, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And well, when he was talking about the universal mind, that's what I refer to as the collective consciousness. And so think of your EMS, your soul, as a drop of water. And when we pass, that drop of water plunges into this eternal sea of souls. That's what I call the collective consciousness, so that your soul is now interlinked with other souls that are interlinked with others, and so on and so forth, which is why spirits can bring forth a tremendous amount of information that far exceeded the scope of anything that they knew here in this world. I get it. I get a lot of medical information that spirits transmit through me. And sometimes they can give other things and also help to guide people on solving particular problems. Now, where the skeptics come in and say, oh, well, if that's the case, why don't they just tell you this, this, and this? You have to realize we're dealing with a different dimension. And they're emitting electromagnetic frequencies to us. So what a spirit does during communication is the spirit emits an impulse. That electromagnetic impulse goes into my brain. My brain's EMS then takes that impulse and converts it into recognizable concepts based on my memories, feelings, and cultural associations. So it's not always like, well, here, let's just give you E equals MC squared and what that means. For example, I may not understand what the message is. Gosh, I got a really long story on that, but I got a shorter one that just happened the other day. So Tracie, I was doing a reading the other night. It was a telephone reading for a husband and wife. And the husband's, I think it was his father, came through and said, two snakes 2 snakes. And this kept getting repeated, 2 snakes. So I'm thinking it could mean, all right, maybe they had an issue where, maybe 2 snakes got in the house. Or the other thing I'm thinking is the medical symbol, with the staff
Right.
with the 2
Exactly.
snakes. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And I said, but does that mean anything to you? Because in a reading, and we did this when I did the reading for you, what I think doesn't matter. It's what it means to you, because the information is coming through me to you for your benefit. And the husband said, I don't know, but I think it might be something Native American. And I said, why do you say that? He goes, well, I'm of Native American descent. I go, okay, well, let's just check this out. All right. The next day I get an email, and I'm still reeling from this one. They explained to me that the husband is of Sioux descent, the Sioux Nation, and the particular tribe of the Sioux Nation in that language literally means 2 snakes.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I don't know that.
Wow.
I didn't know that. So that's why people
Wow.
go, well, why don't they just tell you, and because I'm getting 2 snakes. I don't know the Native American Sioux. Look, I have an understanding of Native American spirituality, but I don't speak Sioux. And
Right.
yeah, and so things like this have
crazy.
happened quite a bit. And people do have to realize, people say, why don't they just tell you? Well, they are just telling me. It's just that spirits don't speak a human language, they speak frequency.
That's right. That's an excellent point. Absolutely. Question here from Ufi. When one views a live transmission, for example, this show, has one's consciousness traveled through space and time?
I don't fully understand what that means. When one views a live transmission, e.g., this show, has one's consciousness traveled through space-time?
I'm not sure what he's asking either.
Yeah, I don't know, because the thing is, now if you're remote viewing, that's when your consciousness is traveling through
That's
space-time.
right.
Okay,
Yes.
but this is just, we are perceiving a transmission delivered through technology, which is using electromagnetic energy. Because radio waves, microwaves, X-rays, gamma rays are all different forms of EM energy. So I would have to give I think the answer to that is probably no.
Right. Didn't the Russian scientists actually film the soul leaving the body some years ago, Mark?
I've heard about that. I've heard about that, and I believe they did. I mean, I've seen people die. I've been at bedsides of people who've died, and I've seen a surge of light come out of their body. So yes, I would not doubt that the Russians and probably others have been able to do this. And the thing is, I was not alone with the person. Families call me to the bedside, and other people saw it as well, and other people who were not mediums. And this is what's known as a shared death experience, because people who are not in imminent danger of dying are able to observe what is happening to the person in transition. It's like deathbed visions. See, deathbed visions, the distinction between them and a shared death experience gets very blurred, because somebody can be having a DBV, a deathbed vision, saying, I'm seeing, Aunt Martha and Uncle Bob coming through, and then people around them see that as well. And as Dr. Raymond Moody and others in that field have said, and I've experienced this too, sometimes the bystanders actually get caught up in the person's life review. They'll start picking up glimpses.
Really?
Oh, it's fascinating. It's really fascinating.
It is
stuff.
absolutely phenomenal and fascinating. Let me ask you this. Do we lose our personalities when we cross, Mark, or no?
No, we don't. And
thank God.
I'm so glad that you asked that.
God.
We
I'm so pleased.
Yeah, we maintain the personalities minus the illnesses. And I've communicated with people that were serial killers. Not some of my favorite readings, okay? And they'll come through and say, I know what I did. And in my first book, Never Letting Go, I did a reading for a woman, Vicky Rios Martinez. I have more respect for that woman. Unbelievable. Her 11-year-old boy was kidnapped, raped, and murdered by a serial killer.
Oh,
Absolutely horrible. And
my
during
gosh.
the reading, her son came through, her mother came through, and then another spirit came through, and he felt like he was on a different frequency, not quite as high, and it was the killer. And I didn't realize he'd been put to death. And and her son said, "He's not evil here, Mom." And as it was explained to me, is that he said I was insane. And I don't want to get into the details because it's really kind of disgusting, what he was showing me. And every time I think about that, it was hard. But what it is, he was a psychopath, which is a malformation of the brain, the hosting device. The spirit is pure energy. It doesn't get sick, old, tired, or die. So while he retained the memories of that, he was no longer evil, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yes, it absolutely does. And that's good to know, because that's something I've always wondered, if the personality stays with us or if we just become this bland,
No,
personality-less soul.
not at all. And a lot of people ask, and this is a topic I addressed in my last book, Evidence of Eternity. Well, what if you want to do a reading and someone has reincarnated? Can you still communicate with them?
Good question.
And I explain that. Think, all right, our soul, our EMS is connected to the collective consciousness. And so we're actually a multidimensional being. In your higher self, which would be the higher frequency aspects of your EMS. Think of that as a librarian. And the librarian has read The Diary of Anne Frank, War and Peace, The Godfather, Danielle Steele's novels, whatever. And in the various incarnations, you've been different characters in those books. So the characters don't know each other, but the librarian does. So let's say that you want to talk to Anne Frank, but now she's reincarnated as Michael Corleone in The Godfather. All right. Well, we're communicating with the higher self that retains the memories and the personality attributes of the various incarnations.
Mm-hmm.
I know this gets really complicated.
It's very deep, isn't it?
It really is. And look, we could do a whole show just on reincarnation, but
yes, and we should sometime.
Yeah, we should, because I actually give a lecture on reincarnation. It's called Debunking Death, the Science of Reincarnation and Near-Death Experiences.
We must do that, Mark. We are going to open up very shortly the phone lines in the next 7 minutes or so, but my producer, Bill, has a question for you, Mark. Is it possible there are entities that are trying to absorb that light or energy for benevolent or malevolent purposes?
And here's where I'm probably going to get flack on this too. I don't believe in evil spirits. I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in the devil. And I was raised Catholic. Okay, so I'm supposed to believe in all of that. And I don't, because they don't exist. Hell is here on earth. And I do explain this in great detail in the Afterlife Frequency. But we may encounter a soul that retains the memories and the personality attributes of a diabolical person when they were here. Because energy is pure and the light cannot be polluted, although it can be blocked. So I don't believe in these predatory spirits trying to suck someone's light or create this or that. Mm-hmm. And I've done readings for probably 15,000 people. I've communicated with well over 100,000 spirits, and I've yet to meet the boogeyman.
Well, that's an interesting point that you've made there, Mark.
Yeah, and like I said, look, I don't have all the answers. Nobody does.
Nobody
does.
Those
are my insights, because I get a lot of paranormalists go, I came across a demon. And Well, you may have come across non-human spiritual intelligence. And we've got to be very careful when we're interfacing and studying, because I'm a paranormal investigator too, and I go on these. And you see a lot of people, they shake night vision goggles around some of those shows. They scream demon, demon, and everyone, And the thing is, you may be encountering an elemental, which is an intelligent spiritual entity that's not associated with humans. It could be associated with animals or plants or earth or whatever. And it doesn't make that entity evil. It makes it different. And so if you're going to be a true investigator, you have to employ the scientific method. You have to observe, keep your opinions out of it until you compile all the data, and then you make the decision. See, a lot of the TV shows and all that, they want things to be evil because scary sells, and I understand that. And I've been to some places, I've been to Dachau concentration camp, and I encountered residual energy echoes. I've been to a place in Little Italy, which I didn't know, but it's kind of a funny story, but it isn't. It isn't. Lots of guys got whacked there. I mean, that's what they told me when I was experiencing all this. And I was at a site in Hawaii, which I didn't realize, but it was the site of a massacre, and I picked up on all of that. And it isn't pleasant, but the thing is, I was picking up on the residual energy echo of where these brutal acts have happened. And you have to be very careful about saying this place is inhabited by devils. It's like, yeah, before we start leaping into the pit of hell, let's do our analysis and be objective about it before we jump to conclusions.
Well, let me ask you this before we do open up the phone lines here. What about in the cases of possession?
Possession is really fascinating. I actually attended an exorcism conducted by a witch doctor in the Amazon, and that was fascinating. And what had happened there was I was on a photographic expedition in this research vessel, and we're in the middle of there was no electricity, running water, and all these canoes came up to the boat, and they said the Brujo was in the village up there, and they wanted us to come, and they said he wants talks with ghosts there. And everyone starts looking at me. Well, apparently, gossip spreads in the Amazon as quick as it does anywhere else. And a couple of villages up the river, they'd heard about me. And so we get there, and the witch doctor was there, and I was expecting to have like chicken bones in his nose and feathers. And
The classic, right?
He's wearing a t-shirt and a baseball cap, but he spoke Aymara. I mean, he wasn't even speaking Spanish, and we were in the Peruvian Amazon. And so we go into this hut, and this woman's laying on the ground, and her husband was holding her and her mother, and he was explaining that she was possessed by demons, and then he started pouring all these liquids on her and licking them off, and he spit this gelatinous goop in his hands, and he threw it in the fire and said, I'm casting the demons into the fire and all this. Well, one of the guys with me was an orthopedic surgeon, and he goes, that woman has a herniated disc. I've seen this hundreds of times, thousands of times. And what it is, the people here, they're living one click from the Stone Age, and it's no insult to them, but this is what it is. I mean, and she looked perfectly fine, but she had this terrible pain that they couldn't explain, and so therefore she was possessed by the devil. And so then he takes this herb and starts whipping her back with it. Well, there was a botanist with us too, and she goes, "Dear God, that's the Amazonian version of poison ivy." And welts are forming on this woman's back. And he's explaining to our guide in Aymara, who's explaining to us in English and back, that she'll feel better in a week. And the surgeon's like, dear God, she couldn't feel any worse. And
Right.
And then he looks at me and goes, are there any demons here? Talks with ghosts. And everybody's looking at me, and I won't say what the botanist said. I'll give you the G rate. She goes, don't screw this up. Screw is not the word that she said. Because, there's like 5 of us, and we're in this village of like 100 people. I mean, it was as Indiana Jones as it gets. And
Sounds a very interesting
It was. And I said, there are no demons here. And they were all happy and all that. And what it was, once the poison ivy subsided in about a week or 2 weeks, she would feel better and she would still have the pain, but it wouldn't be as bad. And so, but I'll tell you, when I first walked into the hut, my Catholic upbringing started bubbling up, and I'm like, well, what if this really is, But the thing is, with a lot of people that claim to be possessed, there's different types of mediums. I'm a mental medium, which means that I receive transactions and information in a telepathic form of telepathy. Physical mediums, I've yet to see one that comes close to being authentic. But trance mediums, which are also known as channelers. Mm-hmm. And I think there are people who don't know that they are channelers. Like Edgar Casey was a channeler, and he realized that he was. So he connected with the collective consciousness and was able to give, healing modalities. But people who are not may be interfacing with elementals and other things, and it is misinterpreted as that. So once again, before we leap into the arms of Satan, let's objectively analyze it.
I totally understand what you're saying there, Mark. Well, we're opening up the phone lines for our listeners and our viewers tonight. 855-472-5483. That's 855-472-5483. And I'm sure you're ready to do some readings, aren't you, Mark?
Absolutely.
Before we get our first call here, where does near-death experiences fit into what we're talking about tonight, Mark? Because the person has died but not crossed over entirely. So what kind of space are they in?
Interesting. I just gave a lecture at the International Association of Near-Death Studies called the NDE Zone. Oh. And remember earlier when I said that think of our world as FM radio and the afterlife frequency as FM radio. And sometimes there is an overlap of the frequencies. Mm-hmm. And it happens in between these two zones. And that's why someone that's having an NDE, they will experience the phenomena of leaving the body and going into the light and encountering deceased loved ones, and even getting to the point where they're interfacing with the divine power that we can call God, the infinite love, and it's just amazing. And then they come back. And so that's why in my book, I explained that all the different forms of interdimensional communication, this is where it occurs. Okay. Right. We're not going into the other side. We are aligning our frequency as they bring theirs down.
Right. Okay. We have Joan from Ohio on the line. Hello there, Joan. Welcome to the show.
Good. Hi, Tracie. How are you?
I am very well. This is my friend Joan in Ohio, right? On Instagram. Yes. Joan.
Yes. Yes, it's me.
Wonderful. Do you have a question for Mark, or would you like to have a reading?
I'll take a reading. That sounds good. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Over to you, Mark.
Okay. Hold on. Joan, I'm getting a male energy coming through connected to you. And he feels to me, when I say your level, I mean your generation. Could be a brother, could be a friend, or a spouse. But I'm getting a male energy that is connected to you, who's coming through. And with him, I keep getting this, like I want to close my eyes and I feel a dizzy disorientation. So what this indicates to me is that prior to his passing, he was having difficulty with mental functioning and clarity. I also feel nauseated. Now, the nausea is an indication that he may have been having difficulty eating and or holding down food prior to passing, but this could also be a cancer indicator. Doesn't always mean it's cancer, but it could be a cancer indicator. Does this make, and I'm getting like a huge sense of bloating. The bloating, I don't think is like from weight gain. I think it could be inflammation and swelling, and I'm also getting shooting pains in my legs. Does this make sense to you in any way?
Yes.
Okay, don't give me his name, but what was his relationship to you?
I think it was my cousin.
Okay, then he'd be on the brother level. All right, let's see what he's got to say. Is there a Jimmy? Because I swear I'm hearing him say Jiminy Crickets, but that could be like Jimmy. And he keeps showing me crickets and grasshoppers. What's interesting about that, unless you're having some issue or you have a cricket or grasshopper story, that is you're laughing. Does that make any sense?
Kinda. I don't know. I don't know where it's going.
Well, don't worry about where it's going. What does that mean to you?
I don't know.
Okay, a lot of times when I get grasshoppers, that's the Chinese symbol for good luck. So that could indicate you may have some contact with somebody close to you who may be of Chinese origin or something China, or maybe you love or hate Chinese food, but that's usually what that means.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay, hold on. What's going on with you in sodium? Sodium fluid retention, soybean, and there's something going on with you where I'm getting soy sensitivity, fluid retention, and sodium issues. And sodium can also indicate blood pressure.
Yeah, I have high blood pressure.
There we go. And what type of food is loaded with sodium? Chinese. Okay, so do you know if you have soybean allergies? All right.
No, I don't know.
Okay. So how about next time you go to the doctor and you get your blood work, not only are you going to follow up on the high blood pressure, but let's find out about a soy sensitivity. Because when I was getting the grasshoppers, that's my trigger for, and I'm not implying that Chinese people eat grasshoppers, although I've heard that fried grasshoppers are very good. So, but the thing, I mean, I ate some stuff in Southeast Asia that, people say, oh, I wouldn't have eaten that. It's like, yeah, well, it was either eat or don't. Okay. But the thing is, what the indicator here is that you may be sensitive to soy and not realize it. And what's interesting is that with protein products for women, there's always soy, soy, soy. Like for men, soy isn't good. Whey protein is better for men. And the thing is, Instagram, Joan, you may be very, very sensitive to soy. And you also, with your high blood pressure, have to be very, very careful with the sodium, which you already know. So that is what he wants you to know. So thank you for calling in.
I hope that's helpful for you, Joan.
Yeah,
thank
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracie.
You're very welcome.
Mark.
Thank you. Okay, our next caller is Ronald from Minnesota. Hi there, Ronald.
Hi, Tracie.
Hi,
Tracie.
welcome to the show.
Mark Anthony. And hi, Bill, and hi to chat out there.
Do you have a question, or would you like a reading?
I would like a reading because I think I talked with Mark before, but I don't think we had time for reading a long time ago.
Okay.
But anyway, if I could get a reading this time, that would be awesome.
Ronald, is your mom on the other side? And the reason, before you say anything, I'm picking up on a female energy that is on the parent level. So it could be a mom or it could be an aunt. But I'm getting like this very maternal type energy. Could be a mother-in-law too. Any of that makes sense?
She passed 2012. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we got mom coming through. Hold on. Skidding. SKIDDING, brakes, skidding, brakes, brake lights, brake issues, skidding. What's going on with your car or your brakes? Did you have some issue, or do you have to? Oh, you're laughing. All right. So what?
I don't know. Well, what's another thing is that they said I need to get my brakes worked on in a couple of oil changes. So.
Bingo.
There you go.
Okay. All right, Ronald. Look, when mom comes all the way from the other side and brings up skidding, brakes, brake lights, and then you just had a mechanic tell you you need your brakes worked on. Let's do this. Because the thing is, Ronald, we want to talk to the other side, not send you there. All right. And look,
point,
let me leave the joking aside. The thing is, this is what is known as spirit intervention. And that's where a spirit will come through to provide you information, alerting you to a potentially dangerous person, place, or thing. In this case, there is an issue with your brakes, which is going to cause either skidding or your inability to brake and lead to an accident. And your mother obviously loves you very much. Month of February, month of February, month of February. She keeps repeating month of February. And here's what's cool. You know those it's candy. They look like little tiny hearts and they have little sayings on them.
Yeah.
Okay, and I remember as a kid, you only got them in February, which is good because it tastes like chalk and sugar,
Yeah.
But is there a birth, death, anniversary, or event of significance to you or someone connected to you within the month of February?
Well, my mom passed February 1st, 2000.
There we go. Now, let me explain to you why that's so important. When a spirit gives me a message of an explanatory or advisory nature, get your brakes fixed. That's the advice and explanation. And then when the spirit immediately follows that up with an objectively verifiable fact, February, your mother passed February 1st. That verifiable fact of February is how the spirit is letting you and I know that we have properly received and interpreted the message.
All right. I like that. Thank you very much. And I will get my brakes looked at.
Please do.
Please, you must.
No, don't get them looked at. Get them fixed.
Get them
What's that one guy? Get her done. Let's get her done. Well, here's the thing. Ronald. I want to talk to you again when you call in on another show, and I want to hear that you are not injured because of an accident. And thing is, your mother also chose that particular candy with the little hearts. Not only does it mean February, but it also means she loves you. So.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Ron.
All right. God bless.
Right, have a good night.
Okay. You too. Thank you, Ron. Okay, up next, Bobby from Louisiana.
Good evening, Mark. Good evening, Tracie, and all members of the chat.
Good evening.
I'm here for my reading.
Hey, Bobby. How you doing? Okay. I'm picking up on a male energy connected to you. Now, this is what's interesting. He could be on your generational level, which mean like brother, sister, or brother, cousin, spouse, friend, but he could be on the parent level. So I'm having somewhere we could have both, but I'm getting this male energy, and I feel like I want to smoke. So this guy was either around a lot of smoke or a very heavy smoker. Hold on, lungs are burning. All right, so he was having some type of breathing and pulmonary issues associated with the latter part of his life. And once again, I'm getting that dizzy disorientation, which indicates to me that he was having some mental clarity issues. But I feel that the pulmonary issues were really, really intense. And now my pancreas is hurting, which is an indicator of pancreatitis, could be pancreatic cancer, or could be diabetes. Any of this makes sense to you?
Well, yeah. So, like, I can get type 2 from the bloodline. So, but it's funny that you mentioned about male energy.
Yes.
So I think it's kind of a bit weird for someone for a male energy. I think like I never met my dad. My dad was there, and I was wondering if that could be like my dad or something. If you're picking up that kind of energy.
It could. And here's the message they want to give you. I feel that my throat and esophagus are burning, and it feels like when a real bad heartburn, that they're pointing out what's known as the esophageal sphincter, which is the valve on the top of your stomach doesn't close all the way, and so the acid from your stomach splashes up. That's why they call it heartburn. And they're zeroing in on this issue with you. Are you having some heartburn or digestive issues?
I think it's mostly heartburn.
Well, yeah, that's heartburn, digestive issues. We're talking the same thing. Okay. So there do you use a lot of chili powder, paprika, and red pepper?
I'm gonna have to say no.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I'm gonna have to say probably a more of a no.
More of a no, he said.
More of a no. Okay. There's something about those that definitely have to be avoided, but I keep getting this heartburn issue. And what's going on here is your esophageal sphincter. Once again, that's the valve on the top of your stomach, is not closing properly. So they're prompting me to request that you get in to see your doctor to have this looked at, because you're thinking, oh, it's just heartburn, you may be taking some Tums or something like that, but that is just a band-aid on a much more serious problem. Now, that being said, I'm not trying to scare you, but let's find out what's going on and get the problem solved. And that's what they want you to know. They're also saying that you're feeling winded, like a little bit tired and a little bit dizzy and winded lately.
Yeah. So yeah, I do like a lot of things in the house, and so yeah, there will be times where I might either get winded or I just like have these mental like anxiety and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So here's the thing. Let's get you in for a checkup and make sure you tell the doctor, about the heartburn, about the winded and all that. Because what I'm getting is these are pretty easily reversed issues now. Now they are. But in 7 months from now, not so much. So let's not wait any longer. Let's get you in there. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay,
God bless.
get her done, Bobby, as Mark says.
That's right. Get her done. Who is the comedian that says that? It's such a good sentence. That's
It's
like
a great
Jeff
line, isn't it?
Foxworthy or one of those guys. It's one of those guys. Get her done. Well, it's
Get her
true.
done. Yeah.
And I think women are better about going for medical attention. Guys, we're like, I'm fine. It's like, really, and guys, if you're having issues, get in,
Exactly. I think Bill wanted to pop on here for a moment. Mark?
What's up, Mark?
Okay.
Now, when you were just doing the reading for Bobby,
yes,
is it possible that other people that are part of this chat that are watching or that are just part of this whole participation, you could be getting a reading of them as well?
Yes, and that is what is known as collective consciousness communication, which is a chapter in my new book, The Afterlife Frequency. And here's why. When I'm opening up to frequency, several spirits come forward, and there may be a commonality between either the spirits or the recipients, which is why when I'm doing group events, I always tell people, even if you didn't get a direct reading, if something came through that resonated with you, that is not a coincidence. Okay, so the answer to your question is yes. Go ahead.
The reason is I made chili mac tonight.
Aha.
And I have severe heartburn right now, and I'm ready to run and get omeprazole once this show is over. So I was like, wait a minute. What?
Yeah, I mean, I could actually feel it. I mean, I was getting red pepper, chili pepper, and paprika, and it's like the unholy alliance.
Now, I got one more question, and
Yes,
we have
sir.
a caller in, so I'll grab the caller. I'll get to you as soon as I just ask one more question.
Sure.
A couple of months ago, as Tracie mentioned earlier during the show, it was really I was fascinated because she told me that you had a discussion and you told her about someone that she knew was having teeth, issues.
Right.
And at that time, I was going through major oral surgery for my teeth. Now, how does that work? How is that going? Because Tracie and I had a prior conversation. It's going through her she's like the middle person that's connecting the whole thing.
It's another form of collective consciousness communication. What it is, See, people think that spirits are invisible humans with our same limitations and we're slow and lumbering, and they're not. Okay, because we're dealing with this infinite intelligence. And so when I was doing a reading for Tracie, your spirits know that. Your spirits know Tracie's spirits because they all know each other, but they knew that. And they also realized that you were going through a health issue and that your spirits, remember I said earlier, they're going to get a message through to you one way or the other. Tracie just happened to be the conduit for that message for you. So that's because people call me up and they go, oh, some movie star died. Have you heard from them yet? It's like, no, because I need a connection to somebody that had a connection to them. Okay. And so because you have a connection to Tracie, your folks came through and said, okay, there's somebody with this issue with a very severe dental and gum issue.
One more quick question.
Yeah.
Do people that have relationships for longer periods of time or are closer have a better connectivity through that consciousness connection?
Well, every connection's different. Okay. So maybe we'll give that a qualified yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark. And I got to say, you were 100% spot on, because when Tracie told me, I got no way.
I was blown away. And listen, there's nobody else I know that's having teeth work done.
And I was that was when I was having the surgery. I was in pain. I was freaking out.
Yeah,
And
Mark
then you
sat
told me
there.
that.
He kept saying, ow, ow, ow. I'm having
Yeah, I
my teeth being
remember
pulled.
that. Yeah, I remember that. It felt like I was getting teeth pulled, and it was like,
that's right.
I mean, I've had root canals, and those are not pleasant. Okay, but that was like that on steroids.
Well, keep up the great work, and I think a lot
you.
of people enjoyed the show and love the show. And we're about 5 minutes out, so if that caller wants to call back, we can get you on there really quick. So call in now if you have a chance for the next 3 minutes. Have a great rest of your show.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Yes, the phone lines are still open, 855-472-5483. We're about 5 minutes away from the close of the show. There's still time to speak to Mark and get a mini reading here. I have to ask you though, Mark, extraterrestrials, have you ever had any communication?
Oh boy, that is once again another show.
Gosh, I've opened up a can of worms, haven't I?
Well, I've done readings on a number of people who have claimed to be abductees, and two of them are very high profile and credible: Nancy Tremaine and Calvin Parker.
Oh yeah, we've had Calvin on the show.
Yeah, I love Calvin. I think he is just
Superman. Yeah, super guy.
Calvin, he was 19 years old. Was fishing in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and he's as country boy as they come, and as genuine and truthful as they come. And he said this metallic object came out of the sky. These robotic things came out of it, seized him and his friend, and he has been subjected to truth serum, lie detectors, hypnotherapy for the past 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Past every single one of them.
Yeah.
And so I've done readings for him and other people, and their spirits talk about the extraterrestrials and that the extraterrestrials are real. And the reason that they come here is that there's specific genetic markers that they're looking for. And like I said, we don't have enough time for me to get into all this. So, maybe
that's
we'll have to
another
come back
show.
That's another show. Yeah.
Another show. And we do have one final caller on the line. We've got Teresa from Canada, I believe, on the line.
All right.
Hi, Teresa.
Let's give it a go.
Hi, you're on with Mark.
How are you? Oh, hi, Mark.
Hey, Teresa. What can I do for you?
I was just wanting to know, my grandpa recently passed away from cancer, and I just wanted to know if he had anything to say.
Wow, he really suffered immensely because I'm feeling it not only in my lungs, but my sternum, my stomach, and then it's seeping down into his testicular and colon area. So it seems like pretty much from his mid chest south. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It spread it all over. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. He just gave me the word goose, goose, goose. Does goose make sense? Like, is there like a bunch of geese, or you guys have goose for Christmas or something? He's talking about goose.
Oh,
Oh,
goose.
that's always good.
Because
Go ahead. How does that make sense?
he's from the islands, so they say goose meaning like it could be like in the Guyanese culture they say goose meaning like chicken, actually like a dish. It's like curry chicken, but they say
I know what you mean.
Yeah, they say that, but it's
Okay, see, I love it because this is one of those things like two snakes. I don't know what this means, but it means it to you, because what I think doesn't matter. I'm just the conduit for the information, okay, that's coming through.
Yeah.
And he said, "Lollipop, lollipop, lifesaver, lollipop, lollipop." All right, so he's singing the lollipop, lifesaver, lollipop song to you, and I'm tasting in particular the lemon, like the lemon. You know how like lemonade has that sweet and sour lemony. What's up with that flavor with you?
I have no idea. I don't even honestly know what that would even entail.
All right, well, hold on. Don't overanalyze it. When I say lemonade or lemon, like a lemon meringue pie, something like that flavor, what comes to mind for you? Don't worry about how it relates to your grandfather. How does it relate to you?
I don't like that pie.
There you go. Because in spirit communication, dislikes are just as important as likes. And if we had more time, I'd get into that. So I want to get him a message for you. And he is going right to your wrist. Right to your wrist. Is there something going on with your wrist? Or there could be some marking or something with your wrist?
Okay. I'm not quite sure what that would be.
I mean, it could be a bracelet. I'm not sure, but he's going right to your wrist. And here's how I'm getting it. I'm feeling, all right, how do people normally take your pulse? On your wrist? What's going on with your heart rate? Heart rate, blood pressure. That's what this is.
Oh, okay. So he's saying it's high, or is that what that means, or?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting is there's an issue with this because I'm getting wrist. Like first I thought maybe there's like a tattoo or something, but I'm feeling like someone coming up and touching.
I do have tattoos on my wrist, like my kid's name, but I do suffer through migraine headaches. Like I get those once in a while. I do get migraines, so I don't know.
Well, no, yes, you do know because number one, I don't know that you have tattoos on your wrist. Number two, you're getting migraines, and there's pressure points along your hands that are used to treat migraines and along possibly with your wrist. And number three, it does have to do with high blood pressure. So I guess the theme tonight, the collective consciousness communication, is get in to see a doctor. Let's get this high blood pressure under control, because let me tell you something. People who get migraines will get strokes. So if you get the migraines under control, then you're going to ward off the possibility of a stroke. And the verifiable fact following a message is the tattoo on your wrist.
Oh, okay. Now I understand.
See, yeah, it's, we got to put we get a bunch of pieces of the puzzle, then we got to put them together. So that's what's going on. Yeah. So your grandfather is fine. He's in the light. He says, it feels good here. He goes, it feels dandy. That's a word. He is dandy.
Oh, that's good. I'm really happy to hear about that. Like he was not always in my life. Like I just recently, like last year, I go to the States to visit my fiance, and my fiance took me up to go meet him for the first time. So when I'm going to be getting married, and I wanted to invite him to the wedding, but I wanted I was actually there.
He'll be there.
You know what I mean?
He'll show up, I'm sure.
Yeah, he'll be there.
Yeah. So, he was in the state of Maryland, and my fiance lives in Baltimore. So, but yeah, it's just,
I know he was an amazing person, you know,
Mm.
like, you know, what everybody was having to say about him, because I was on the Zoom for his a funeral, and it was just really touching, and I really have loved to really know him on a deeper level. You know what I mean? So it was honestly really sad when his passing came so suddenly. But I know he was sick for a very long time too as well. So you know.
Well,
Yeah.
he's totally safe. Teresa, thank you for calling in. We have to wrap up our show, but we thank you for your call.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay.
That's okay. No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You're missing your grandfather, you know. God bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling
exactly.
in. Tracie, thank you for having me on the show. I
You
really
are
enjoy.
very welcome.
I always have so much fun when I talk to you, and thank you so much. And Bill, thank you, and to all the listeners, please keep tuning into the Tracie Austin Show.
Please do. Yes, we love our listeners. We love our viewers. And we're excited to have them here every Sunday night with us for 2 hours. You've been a terrific guest tonight, Mark. Can't thank you enough. It's been a great 2-hour conversation with you. What's your website that our listeners can check you out?
Right there on the screen,
Right there, look at that.
afterlifefrequency.com. And I invite everyone to sign up for my newsletter so you keep up to date when I'm on shows like the Tracie Austin Show. And you can apply for a telephone reading through there, and also find out about ordering my new book, The Afterlife Frequency. And thank you again. And Tracie, I want to say this for you. I'm Mark Anthony, and you're listening to the Tracie Austin Show.
Thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I do want to thank Bill as well, my producer, for his great work tonight. And of course, to you, our listeners and our viewers. We couldn't do this show without you. So thank you for your support and tuning in every week as you do. And as I always say, after every show, keep an open heart and an open mind.